The sky above the planet 4 was burning. Great ships with dark hulls moved through the clouds like shadows, dropping fire and death on everything below. The people had never seen war like this. They had never seen war at all. Ambassador Aura stood at the window of his office in the capital city. His silver-scaled skin reflected the orange glow of distant explosions. His 4 eyes watched as another building collapsed somewhere in the eastern district. He could hear screaming, even from this distance. He could smell smoke. His assistant, a young female named Elle, ran into the room. Her scales were pale with fear. Ambassador, the shield generators in Sector 12 have failed. The enemy is landing troops. Auras closed his eyes for a moment. His people were peaceful. They had no army. They had no weapons beyond simple tools for hunting. When the HAL war fleet had appeared in their sky 3 days ago, they had tried to negotiate. They had offered trade. They had offered friendship. The HAL had laughed and opened fire. "How many dead?" Auras asked quietly. "We do not know, Ambassador. The hospitals are full. The communication networks are failing." Elle's voice broke. "My family is in the Eastern District." Auras turned away from the window. He walked to his desk where a small device sat waiting. The emergency beacon. Every member of the Galactic Council received one when they joined. It was meant to call for help in times of crisis. They had joined the Council only 3 cycles ago. They were new. They were small. They had no power, no influence, no allies. Auras knew that pressing the beacon was probably useless. The Council was slow. The other species were careful. Help might come in months if it came at all. But his people were dying. He pressed the button. The beacon sent its signal through subspace, traveling faster than light to every member world of the Galactic Council. It carried a simple message: "We are under attack, we are dying, please help us." The responses came within hours. A species of tall insect-like beings known for their spiritual beliefs sent a message of prayers and good wishes. They promised to light candles in their temples. A race of gas-dwelling creatures who controlled vast trade networks sent formal condolences. They expressed hope that the situation would resolve itself peacefully. The ancient beings who had been traveling the stars for 10,000 years, promised to bring the matter before the Council. There would be a vote in 6 months. Auras read each response with growing despair. His people did not have 6 months. They did not have 6 days. The HAL were savage and cruel. They did not take prisoners. They did not show mercy. Then a different response arrived. It came from a planet called Earth, home to a species called humans. They had joined the Council only 50 years ago, which made them even newer than the Auras had met a human once at a diplomatic gathering. A strange creature, standing on 2 legs with pale skin and dark hair. The human had been friendly but intense. Its eyes had seemed to look right through him. The message from Earth was short. "Distress signal received. Fleet mobilizing, hold on." Auras read it 3 times. He did not understand. Fleet mobilizing. The humans had a fleet. He had never heard of them fighting anyone. He knew almost nothing about them, really. They were new. They were distant. They kept to themselves. He showed the message to Elle. She tilted her head in confusion. "What does this mean, Ambassador?" "I do not know." Far away on the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Daniel Hawkins was sitting in his office aboard Earth's primary orbital command station. He was 52 years old, with hair cut short and a face marked by years of service. A cup of coffee sat on his desk, growing cold. His communications officer, Lieutenant Commander Vance, had brought him the distress beacon 10 minutes ago. He had read it once, then read it again. Then he had pulled up everything the Human Intelligence Network had on the HAL. It was not pleasant reading. The HAL were reptilian predators from a harsh desert world. They had conquered 7 other species in the past century. They kept slaves. They burned cities for sport. They believed that mercy was weakness and kindness was foolishness. Hawkins thought about he had never met one, but he had seen pictures. Gentle beings with silver scales and soft voices, artists and musicians and poets. They had no weapons. They had no defenses. They were being slaughtered by monsters. He pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Admiral Price, and Admiral Tours, and Admiral Benjamin Cole." Hesitated. "Sir, those are the commanders of 3 different battle fleets." "I know exactly who they are, Lieutenant Commander." "Sir, the Council protocols say we should wait for authorization before deploying military forces to another system." Hawkins looked up at her. His eyes were hard. "Lieutenant Commander, there are children dying on that planet right now. They sent a beacon asking for help. That is all the authorization I need." Nodded slowly. She had served under Hawkins for 5 years. She had never seen him look quite like this before. "Yes, sir, I will make the calls." Within the hour, the message had spread through the entire human military network. Captains woke their crews. Engineers prepared their engines. Weapons officers loaded their guns. The word moved from ship to ship, from station to station, from Earth to Mars to the colonies on Europa and beyond. Someone was calling for help. Admiral Price was 63 years old and had been planning to retire next year. When she received the briefing, she canceled her retirement and walked to the bridge of her carrier, the Valiant. Admiral Tours was on leave, visiting his daughter on Mars. He kissed her goodbye and caught the first shuttle back to his battleship. Admiral Benjamin Cole was in the middle of a training exercise with his fleet. He ended the exercise immediately and set course for the rally point. Across human space, the military was waking up. Ships that had been in maintenance were rushed back to service. Reserve vessels were pulled from storage. Civilian cargo ships with weapons mounts volunteered to join. No one asked why. Everyone knew. Because somewhere out there a people was dying. They had asked for help. And humans, unlike the rest of the galaxy, actually answered. Horus stood at his window and watched his city burn. He did not know that help was coming. He did not know that across the galaxy, an entire civilization had heard his cry and decided to respond. He only knew that his people were dying and there was nothing he could do. But help was coming. And it was bringing more firepower than anyone in the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Christopher Lane stood on the bridge of his destroyer, the Resolute, and watched the tactical display with growing amazement. Ships were appearing from every direction. Cruisers, battleships, carriers, destroyers, frigates, even old vessels that he had thought were retired. "Sir," his censor officer, Ensign Turner, said quietly, "I am counting 300 vessels in this sector alone, and more are still arriving." Christopher nodded but did not speak. He had served in the human navy for 20 years. He had fought pirates. He had protected trade routes. He had even been present during the brief but bloody Mars rebellion, but he had never seen anything like this. The communications console lit up. "Captain Lane, this is Admiral Hawkins. You are assigned to Battle Group 7 under Admiral Price. Fall into formation." "Understood, Admiral." Christopher paused. "Sir, may I ask a question?" "Go ahead, Captain." "What is our total strength? How many ships are we bringing?" There was silence on the channel for a long moment. When Hawkins spoke again, his voice sounded almost surprised by his own words. "As of right now, Captain, we have 847 combat vessels confirmed. More are still arriving from the outer colonies. The civilian merchant marine has also volunteered 63 armed cargo ships for supply and support." Christopher felt something cold move down his spine. 800 ships. For a species they had never met, on a planet they had never visited, to fight an enemy they had no quarrel with. "Sir," he said slowly, "that is not a relief force. That is an armada." "Yes, Captain, it is." The channel closed. Christopher sat down in his command chair and looked around at his bridge crew. His first officer, Lieutenant Commander Blake, was checking tactical data. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Young, was running diagnostics on their guns. His engineer, Chief Victoria Santos, was monitoring the engine status. They were all professionals. They were all ready. None of them had asked why. "Sir," Ensign Turner said, "Battle Group 7 is forming up. Admiral Price is requesting all captains join a briefing channel." "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed Admiral Price on the bridge of the carrier Valiant. She was an older woman with white hair pulled back tight and eyes that had seen too much death. Her voice was calm and steady. "Good morning, captains. I know many of you have questions. I will keep this brief because we do not have much time." She touched a control, and a star map appeared on the screen. A small planet in a distant system glowed red. "This is 4 of the people. They are a peaceful species, artists, musicians, builders. They joined the Galactic Council 3 cycles ago, hoping that membership would protect them from the dangers of the galaxy." She paused. It did not. The display changed to show a fleet of dark warships. "The HAL invaded 48 hours ago. They have no military. They have no defenses. Current estimates suggest civilian casualties in the millions. Their capital city is under direct assault. If nothing changes, they will be extinct within 72 hours. Silence on the channel. Christopher could hear his own heartbeat. They sent a distress beacon to every member of the Galactic Council. The sent prayers. The sent condolences. The ETH promised to form a committee. Admiral Price's voice hardened. "We are sending a fleet." Another captain spoke up. Christopher recognized the voice as Commander Wells of the frigate Swift. "Admiral, what are the HAL numbers?" "Intelligence suggests approximately 700 warships. They are a warrior culture. Their technology is comparable to ours. They have never lost a war. And we are bringing over 800 ships against 700. That is not overwhelming force, Admiral." Price smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Commander, the count I gave you was from an hour ago. Current estimates put our force at over 900 vessels, with more arriving every 30 minutes. By the time we reach 4, we will have enough ships to darken their sky." No one spoke. "Our objective is simple. Destroy the HAL fleet. Protect the people. Send a message to the galaxy that when someone asks humanity for help, we do not send thoughts and prayers. We send guns." The briefing ended. Christopher sat in his chair and thought about what he had just heard. There were strangers. The HAL had done nothing to Earth. By every calculation of politics and profit, this mission made no sense. But that was not how humans thought. His grandmother had told him stories when he was a child. Stories about the old wars on Earth, about the times when great nations had watched small countries burn and done nothing, about the shame that followed, about the promises that were made afterward. Never again, they had said. Humanity had carried that promise into the stars. "Captain," Lieutenant Young said, "all weapons are loaded and ready." "Thank you, Lieutenant." "Captain," Chief Santos reported, "engines are running at optimal capacity. We can maintain maximum speed for the entire journey." "Good work, Chief." "Captain," Blake said quietly, "the crew is ready. Morale is high. Everyone knows why we are doing this." Christopher nodded. He looked around at his bridge. These people were his family. He had served with some of them for years. They had celebrated together, mourned together, fought together. Now they were going to war again, not for territory, not for resources, not for revenge. For strangers. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out on 1,000 bridges. Captains spoke to their crews. Officers checked their equipment. Soldiers prepared their weapons. Everyone understood the mission. On the orbital command station, Admiral Hawkins watched the fleet assemble. His coffee had gone cold hours ago. He had not slept. He did not care. Vance approached his station. "Admiral, the Galactic Council has sent an official inquiry. They want to know why we are mobilizing military forces without authorization. Hawkins did not look away from the display. Tell them we received a distress call from a member species, and we are responding. They say this level of response is disproportionate. They say we should wait for council approval. Hawkins turned to face her. His eyes were tired but determined. Lieutenant Commander, there are people dying while the council debates. Children are being murdered while the light candles. Cities are burning while the send letters of concern. He shook his head. Tell the council that humanity does not ask permission to save lives. We do not wait for approval to stop a genocide. We act. Nodded and turned to send the message. The fleet continued to grow. Ships kept arriving from every corner of human space. Some were old and battered. Some were new and gleaming. Some were military vessels with professional crews. Some were civilian ships with volunteer fighters. It did not matter. They were all going to the same place. They were all there for the same reason. Someone had asked for help, and humanity had answered. The final count, when the fleet jumped to faster than light travel, was 1,231 vessels. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. It was heading to save a species they had never met, on a planet they had never visited, against an enemy they had no history with. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. But then again, the galaxy had never truly understood humans. Auras had stopped hopping. The shield generators protecting the capital had failed completely. HAL soldiers were moving through the streets, killing everyone they found. The bunkers beneath the government building were full of refugees, mostly children and elderly. They were hiding in the dark, trying not to make any sound. His assistant Elle had found her family. They were alive, barely. Her younger brother had been wounded by falling debris. Her parents were caring for him in one of the underground chambers. Aura stood on the roof of the government building and looked at the sky. The HAL warships hung above the city like dark clouds. Smaller transport vessels moved between them, carrying troops and supplies. The enemy was in no hurry. They knew they had no way to fight back. It had been 2 days since he sent the distress beacon, 2 days of fire and death and screaming. The council members had sent their messages of concern. No one had sent ships. He should go back to the bunker, he knew. He should hide with his people and wait for the end. But something kept him on that roof, watching the sky. Then he saw something strange. A flicker of light in the upper atmosphere, then another, then dozens more. The sky began to tear. Auras had studied faster than light travel. He knew what those lights meant. Ships were arriving. Ships were coming out of subspace. But so many. The flickers filled the entire sky, spreading from horizon to horizon like stars being born. The HAL noticed too. Their communication channels exploded with confused chatter. Their warships began to move, turning toward the disturbance. Then the human fleet arrived. Ships poured through the rifts in space like water through a breaking dam. Vessels with angular designs covered in weapons and armor. Carriers the size of small cities. Battleships bristling with guns. Destroyers and cruisers and frigates, hundreds of them, thousands of them, filling the sky until the HAL ships looked small and lonely. Auras fell to his knees. His 4 eyes could not process what he was seeing. This was impossible. No species responded to a distress call like this. No one sent this many ships for strangers. But the humans had. On the bridge of the orbital command ship Thunder, Admiral Daniel Hawkins looked at the tactical display and smiled grimly. The HAL fleet was ahead of them, spread around the planet in a loose formation. They had not expected opposition. They had not prepared for a fight. That was about to change. Lieutenant Commander Vance, open a channel to the HAL fleet. All frequencies. Channel open, Admiral. Hawkins stood and straightened his uniform. This is Admiral Daniel Hawkins of the United Earth Defense Fleet. I'm speaking to all HAL forces in this system. You are ordered to cease your attack on the people immediately and withdraw from this space. You have 15 minutes to comply. Failure to comply will be treated as an act of war." He paused. "This is your only warning." The response came within seconds. A harsh, growling voice filled the channel. "I am War Chief of the HAL 7th Conquest Fleet. Who are you little creatures to make demands of us? I see perhaps 300 of your vessels. We have 700. You are outnumbered and far from your home." Laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the transmission. "Go away, humans. This is not your fight. They are ours. Their planet is ours. Their lives are ours. If you interfere, we will destroy you, and then we will come for your worlds next." Admiral Hawkins listened calmly. When finished, he spoke again. "War Chief, you seem to be having trouble with your sensors. You count 300 ships because that is how many have emerged from subspace so far. The rest are waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For your answer." There was confusion in his voice now. "What kind of trick is this?" "No trick, War Chief. Just a question. Are you going to leave peacefully, or are we going to have to make you leave?" Snarled. "The HAL do not retreat. The HAL do not surrender. We will crush your little fleet and mount your skulls on our walls. Attack humans if you dare. We will enjoy killing you." Hawkins nodded slowly. "Lieutenant Commander Vance, send the signal. Authorization code Omega 7. "Yes, Admiral, signal sent." New rifts began to open in space. More ships emerged, many more. The HAL sensor operators began shouting in alarm as the numbers climbed. 400 human ships, 500, 600, 700, 800. The fleet kept coming, wave after wave of steel and burning engines. His voice had lost its confidence. "This is impossible. No species has this many ships. No one responds to a distress call with this kind of force." "We do," Hawkins said simply. The final count appeared on the tactical display. 1,231 human vessels against 700 HAL warships. "War Chief," Hawkins continued, "you have now seen our full strength. I will give you one more chance to withdraw, one more chance to save your fleet and your people. Take it." There was a long silence. The entire HAL fleet seemed to hold its breath, then spoke again, and his voice was hard with pride and anger. "The HAL do not fear death. We do not run from battle. You will regret this day, human. We will fight to the last ship, and we will take many of you with us." Hawkins sighed. He had expected this. The HAL were warriors. They could not accept surrender without losing everything they believed in. "Very well, War Chief. If you will not leave peacefully, we will remove you by force." He turned to his tactical officer, Commander Sandra. "All ships weapons free. Engage the enemy." On the surface of 4, auras watched as the sky erupted into fire. But this time, the fire was not aimed at his people. It was aimed at the HAL. Human weapons blazed across the darkness of space. Missiles streaked toward enemy vessels. Energy beams cut through armor. Explosions bloomed like flowers of light, one after another after another. The HAL fought back. They were fierce and brave, and they did not retreat. But they were outnumbered, and the humans fought with a cold efficiency that seemed almost inhuman. No wasted shots, no dramatic speeches, no mercy. Just relentless, overwhelming force. Auras watched the battle rage above his world and felt tears running down his silver scales. He did not understand why the humans had come. He did not understand why they had sent so many ships for people they had never met. But he understood one thing clearly. They were going to survive. Someone had answered their call. Someone had come to help. The battle lasted 6 hours. Captain Christopher Lane guided the Resolute through the chaos, shouting orders over the sound of explosions and warning alarms. His ship shook as enemy fire struck the hull. Smoke filled parts of the lower decks. 3 crew members were already dead. 2 enemy frigates approaching from port side, Ensign Turner reported. Her voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. Range closing fast. Lieutenant Young, target the lead frigate. Fire when ready. Yes, Captain, firing now. The Resolute's main guns spoke with thunder. The first enemy frigate cracked open like an egg, spilling fire and debris into space. The second frigate tried to turn away, but it was too slow. A second shot caught it in the engine section, and it exploded in a ball of orange flame. Good shooting, Lieutenant. Thank you, sir. Across the battlefield, human ships moved like wolves hunting prey. They worked in formations, coordinating their attacks with practiced precision. Each knew its role. Each captain understood the plan. The HFY fought hard. They were warriors raised from birth to kill and conquer. They did not know how to surrender. They did not understand retreat. Ship after ship charged into the human lines, guns blazing, seeking glorious death. The humans gave it to them. Admiral Price watched the battle from the bridge of the Valiant. Her carrier had launched all its fighters, small attack craft that swarmed around the larger HFY vessels like angry insects. Each fighter carried only a few missiles, but there were hundreds of them, and they struck with devastating accuracy. Admiral Commander Timothy Shaw reported, enemy flagship identified. Bearing 035, distance 50,000 kilometers. It is the largest vessel in their fleet. That will be command ship. Price studied the tactical display. The HFY flagship was a massive thing, covered in weapons and armor. It was surrounded by a dozen escort vessels protecting their war chief. Signal battleships Ironclad, Thunderbolt, and Victory. Tell them to concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. I want that ship destroyed. Yes, Admiral. The 3 human battleships turned toward their target. Each one was a kilometer long, bristling with weapons capable of cracking planets. They moved in formation, shields overlapping, guns charging. Saw them coming. He roared commands to his escorts, ordering them to protect him. The smaller HFY ships rushed to intercept, throwing themselves in the path of the human battleships. They were brave, they were loyal, they were not enough. The human battleships plowed through the escorts like a knife through paper. Point defense systems shot down incoming missiles. Heavy armor absorbed enemy fire. Main guns turned HFY ships into expanding clouds of debris. Then they reached the flagship. All 3 battleships fired at once. Concentrated beams of energy struck the HFY command vessel from 3 directions. Its shields flickered, then failed. Its armor melted like wax in a furnace. The ship broke apart, splitting down the middle, spilling burning atmosphere into the void. Was dead. The HFY fleet began to fall apart. Without their war chief, without their command structure, individual captains made their own decisions. Some kept fighting, seeking death in battle. Some tried to retreat, abandoning their allies. Some simply stopped, drifting in space, waiting for the end. The humans showed no mercy. Every HFY ship that did not surrender was destroyed. Every vessel that tried to flee was hunted down. There would be no survivors to threaten the again. Captain Lane watched the final stages of the battle from the bridge of the Resolute. His ship had taken heavy damage. The port side was vented to space. The forward weapons array was destroyed. 12 of his crew were dead. But they had won. Captain, Blake said quietly, the enemy fleet is broken. Admiral Hawkins is ordering all ships to secure the system and begin rescue operations. Acknowledged. Christopher let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. All hands stand down from battle stations. Damage control teams begin repairs. Medical teams tend to the wounded. He looked at the tactical display one more time. The HFY had brought 700 ships to conquer a peaceful world. 412 of those ships were now destroyed. The rest had surrendered or fled. Human losses were 37 vessels destroyed and 91 damaged. It was a victory, a complete and total victory. On the surface of 4, the battle had a different meaning. Auras watched as human shuttles descended through the smoke-filled sky. They landed in the ruined streets of the capital city, and soldiers in armor emerged. But these soldiers were not killing. They were helping. Medical teams set up triage stations in the open plazas. Engineers worked to restore power to the hospitals. Search and rescue crews dug through collapsed buildings, looking for survivors. A young human soldier approached Auras. She was small by human standards, with short dark hair and kind eyes. Her name tag read, "Ambassador Auras, I am Sergeant. I have been assigned to coordinate relief efforts with your government. Can you tell me where the wounded are being gathered?" Auras stared at her for a long moment. This strange creature, this human, had crossed the galaxy to save his people. She stood in the ruins of his city, surrounded by death and destruction, and her first question was how she could help. "The bunkers," he said finally. His voice was rough from smoke and exhaustion. "Beneath the government building. There are thousands of people there. Many are wounded. We have no medicine. We have no food." Sergeant nodded and spoke into a communication device on her wrist. "Command, this is. We have located survivors in underground bunkers beneath the main government complex, requesting medical teams and supplies immediately." "Acknowledged, Sergeant. Help is on the way." She turned back to Auras and smiled gently. "Ambassador, we are going to take care of your people. We have doctors, food, water, medicine, everything you need. You are safe now." Auras felt his legs give way beneath him. He would have fallen, but Sergeant caught him and helped him sit down on a piece of broken stone. "I do not understand," he whispered. "Why did you come? Why did you send so many ships? We are strangers to you. We have nothing to offer. We cannot pay you. We cannot help you. Why?" Sergeant was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Ambassador, you sent a message asking for help. That is all we needed to know." She helped him to his feet. "Now come on, let us go check on your people." They walked together toward the government building, the human soldier and the alien diplomat. Behind them, more shuttles were landing. More help was arriving. The sky that had been full of enemy ships was now full of rescue vessels. They were going to live. And they would never forget who had saved them. 3 weeks had passed since the battle. The fires were out. The dead had been buried. The work of rebuilding had begun. Ambassador Auras walked through the streets of his capital city with Admiral Daniel Hawkins at his side. The buildings were still damaged, many reduced to rubble, but there was life here again. Children played in the streets. Shops were reopening. The sound of music drifted from somewhere nearby. Human engineers worked alongside builders, repairing walls and restoring power systems. Human doctors treated patients in temporary medical stations. Human soldiers patrolled the streets, not as conquerors but as protectors. "Admiral," Auras said slowly, "I have wanted to ask you something since the day you arrived." "Go ahead, Ambassador." "Why?" Hawkins looked at him with questioning eyes. "Why what?" "Why all of this?" Auras gestured at the reconstruction work around them. "We sent a distress beacon. We expected nothing. Maybe a few ships if we were lucky. A token force to satisfy some political obligation. Instead, you sent over 1,000 vessels. You crossed the galaxy. You fought a war for people you had never met." He stopped walking and faced the human admiral directly. "We are small. We are weak. We have no resources you need. We have no technology you want. We cannot help you in any way, and yet you came, you bled for us, your people died for us." His voice cracked slightly. "Why?" Hawkins was silent for a long moment. He looked around at the ruined city, at the families trying to put their lives back together, at the human soldiers helping them. "Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. Something that most of the galaxy does not understand." He started walking again, and Auras fell into step beside him. "We are not the oldest species in the galaxy. We are not the strongest. We are not the. We have only been among the stars for a few centuries. In galactic terms, we are children." He paused at a corner where a group of children were receiving food from a human relief worker. A small girl with bright silver scales was holding the hand of a human medic, laughing at something he had said. "But before we reached the stars, Ambassador, we had a very long and very painful history. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. We created weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came within moments of ending our own species, more than once." He turned to face Auras. "And during all of that time, during all of our darkest hours, nobody came to help us. We were alone. When our cities burned, no one sent ships. When our people starved, no one sent food. When we faced extinction, no one offered aid." His voice grew harder. "We survived because we had no choice. We climbed out of every disaster, every war, every catastrophe by ourselves. And somewhere along the way, we made a promise. We promised ourselves that if we ever became strong enough, if we ever had the power to help others, we would not do what the universe did to us." He pointed at the sky where human ships still orbited, keeping watch over the world. "When someone sends a distress call, we do not send thoughts and prayers. We do not promise to form a committee. We do not tell them to wait 6 months while we discuss the matter. We send help, real help, enough help to actually make a difference." Auras listened in silence. He was beginning to understand. "The Galactic Council thinks we are foolish," Hawkins continued. "They think this response was disproportionate. They say we could have achieved the same result with fewer ships, fewer soldiers, less effort." He smiled, but there was something fierce in his eyes. "They are wrong. This was not about military efficiency. This was about sending a message to every species in the galaxy that might be thinking about attacking someone weaker than themselves. A message that says, if you harm the innocent, if you prey on the helpless, we will come for you, not with a token force, not with a diplomatic protest, with everything we have." Auras nodded slowly. He finally understood what he was looking at. The humans were not just soldiers. They were not just rescuers. They were something else entirely. They were the species that remembered what it felt like to be alone. "The Council will be angry," he said quietly. "They will condemn your actions. They will call you aggressive, dangerous, unstable." "Probably," Hawkins shrugged. "I do not care what the Council thinks. I care about results. Your people are alive. The HAL will think twice before attacking anyone else. That is what matters." They walked in silence for a while longer. The sun was setting over the damaged skyline, painting the clouds in shades of orange and purple. It was beautiful, in a strange way. New life growing from destruction. "Admiral," Auras said finally, "my people will never forget what you have done for us. We will tell this story to our children, and they will tell their children. For as long as exist, we will remember that when we were dying and alone, the humans came to save us." Hawkins nodded. "That is all we ask, Ambassador. Remember. And if someday you see another species in trouble, another people facing destruction, another world burning while the galaxy watches and does nothing, I hope you will remember what we did. And I hope you will do the same." Auras straightened his spine and looked the human directly in his strange flat eyes. "We will, Admiral, I promise you, we will." 3 months later, the Galactic Council held a vote on the human intervention at 4. The motion to censure Earth for its disproportionate military response passed with 72 votes in favor. But there were 19 abstentions, 19 species that refused to criticize what the humans had done. Within a year, all 19 of those species had applied to open formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Some asked for military alliances. Some asked for training for their own defense forces. Some simply asked to be friends. When reporters asked the ambassador why his species had changed its position, he gave a simple answer. "The humans showed us what it means to truly help someone. We are ashamed that we did not understand before. We will not make that mistake again. The HAL conquest fleets never attacked another peaceful world. The memory of 4 was too fresh, too painful. They had learned that there were some prey that were protected, some victims that had powerful friends. And far away, on the restored streets of a rebuilt city on 4, a monument was raised. It showed a human hand reaching down to lift up a figure. The inscription at the base was written in both languages. They asked for help, we came. They visited that monument every year on the anniversary of their salvation. They brought flowers and songs and prayers of gratitude. They told their children the story of the day the sky opened and an armada appeared. They had expected a few ships, maybe. They had received something far greater. They had received proof that in a cold and uncaring galaxy, there was at least one species that would answer when others called for help. And that made all the difference.